Greetings. I'm Angel Cabrera. I'm president of Georgia Tech and one of the co-founders of the University Global Coalition, or UGC. Welcome to our annual gathering, and thank you for taking time today to learn about some of the amazing work that is happening throughout higher education to advance the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals or global goals around the world. I want to start by, of course, by thanking our 2021 conference committee and the many others who assisted in putting this event together, including, very importantly, our committee chair, Arturo Condo, dear friend and president of Earth University in Costa Rica, and our partners at the UN Institute for Training and Research, UNITAR. Thank you for everything you've done to support the UGC in this gathering. We also want to thank my colleagues at Georgia Tech in the professional education office for their support on the technical end, and we especially want to thank all of our outstanding speakers and panelists who are committing their time, their energy, and their passion to making this event a success. Our schedule today starts with a discussion that follows. It's very timely on the heels of the 2021 Food Systems Summit, focusing on the goal number 2, Zero Hunger, and the important work some of our member institutions are doing in this space. Following that, we'll have 5 fantastic sessions for you to choose from, followed by a short break, and then a plenary panel on how to connect people to sustainability projects in the real world from our friends at the U.S. Partnership for Education for Sustainable Development. We'll end today's program with a half hour of roundtable discussions and networking, where you can join the topic of your choice and meet others who share your passion. At 9 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow, we'll start day 2 of the conference, and we look forward to seeing you then as well. As you may know, this is the University Global Coalition's 3rd annual gathering and our 2nd virtual gathering. Yeah, it's become customary to apologize for having to be virtual and not in person, as we would have preferred to do it in New York. But on the other hand, we've learned that there are many advantages of creating these virtual gatherings, in the sense that we can reach many more people and gather much bigger audiences and connect many folks from around the world. So there are many advantages related to the technology that we've learned to use during the past 18 months. Connecting is the heart of the coalition, which was founded in 2019 by an international group of higher education leaders in partnership, as I said, with UNITAR. UGC provides an important organization framework for an institutional commitment to sustainable development goals in universities the world over, through partnership, teaching, research, and most importantly, developing future leaders. UGC is at the heart action-oriented, and we are 1 year into the decade of action for achieving the SDGs. This year, we have big plans for providing members with more ways to engage, and we want to hear from you as members and attendees. What are your priorities and needs? So please keep that in mind during this conference and let us know today, tomorrow, or after the event when we send out our follow-up communications. I also encourage those who have not already done so to formally join the UGC as a member institution. Membership requires signing on to the Coalition's 6 commitments by an official who can sign on behalf of the entire institution. You can learn more about these commitments and sign on to the coalition at our website, universityglobalconnection.org. For now, we'll proceed with the conference, and it is my pleasure and honor to introduce Earth's president and the chairman of the committee of this year's conference, Dr. Arturo Condo. Arturo, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Angel, and good evening or good morning, wherever you are in the world. And thanks for joining. This is incredible global connection. As President Cabrera just mentioned, a number of 2019, with this intention, this aspiration to join forces behind the Sustainable Development Goals. It's been a short but intense ride, a couple of years through which, of course, we had to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic, and has affected, of course, higher education institutions across the world. I want to echo President Cabrera's words, thanking Georgia Tech, the institution he leads, the amazing human capital that organization has to offer and has contributed, and all the resources that the university has put to the organization of this conference. Also, McGill University, who has also contributed with valuable resources, as well as my colleagues in the organizing committee, representing different universities across the world: University of California, Davis, SUNY, the SUNY System, State University of New York, Koç University in Turkey, Universidad de los Andes in Colombia, Carnegie Mellon University in the US and Rwanda, UNITAR, based in Switzerland, but of course the global institution, George Mason University in the US, and of course my colleagues at university. Thank you. Thanks to you all. So as President Cabrera mentioned, at UGC, we want to bring together the power of universities across the world to step up our efforts to achieve these sustainable development goals, these goals that humanity has set for us as a community. And as you probably already know, the United Nations launched the Decade of Action as a call for accelerating sustainable solutions to all the world's biggest challenges, ranging from poverty and gender to climate change, inequality, and closing the finance gap, all the challenges outlined by the Sustainable Development Goals. As you also know, the COVID-19 pandemic an initiative within UGC, within the University Global Coalition, to support that Decade of Action. A group of universities got together behind each SDG to figure out new ways to collaborate so that we can achieve humanity's Sustainable Development Goals. Universities across the world already collaborate in a number of ways. We exchange students, we exchange faculty, and we do some joint research, but we need to do more. Since the SDGs were adopted as the goals for 2030, all of us at universities across the world have started to list all the things we do to support those goals. That's great, and it goes to show that universities are indeed very relevant for human development. But as I said, I believe we need to do more. Taking stock of where we were in 2020, last year, our conclusion was that we are not on the right track to fulfill humanity's aspirations. So we need to be creative. We need to find new ways to collaborate across the world, within and across universities, doing more research together, helping change reality, and having direct impact in communities globally, and connecting our students so that about 250 million university students around the world can be empowered to change the reality that they will ultimately inherit. University of California, Davis, and Earth University joined efforts last year to accomplish just that. After the first ever UN Global Food Summit last week, the world has never been more aware of the challenges to provide food for a growing human population in the context of climate change, and today in the context of disrupted logistics across the world and challenges to the quality of soil and the health of soil and the health of humans. Today, we want to share with you the initial work and the learnings who are starting to take this road, and more importantly, hopefully, to inspire many others to join us in this effort. So let me turn it over to Joanna Rewulska, Vice Provost and Dean for Global Affairs and Professor of Gender, Sexuality, and Women's Studies at University of California, Davis. Joanna co-chairs the UGC SDG 2 unit, Zero Hunger, this initiative with me, and we'll introduce our speakers now. Please, Joanna. Can you open your microphone, please?
I think I did, but can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Thank you so much, Arturo. It's truly a pleasure to be with all of you today to kick off this UGC annual gathering, and of course to share more about the SDG 2 Zero Hunger efforts. We have two faculty experts joining us for conversation, and we have also two students joining us for this conversation, because obviously the future belongs to our students. First, let me introduce Dr. Ermias Kebab, who is a professor of animal science and serves as the Associate Dean of Global Engagement and is director of the World Food Center in the College of Agriculture and Environmental Sciences at UC Davis. Professor Kebab also holds the CISNON and endowed chair in the Department of Animal Science. Dr. Kebab has been conducting pioneering research with dairy cows to find out if seaweed will reduce methane emissions from cow. Also joining us is Jose Eduardo Villabolos, who is a professor of soil science at Earth University. He also serves as the coordinator of the Precision Agriculture Center. He has specialized in the integration of layers of information at different vantage points, soil, plant, and remote, for successful farm diagnosis to optimize their productive efficiency through precision agriculture techniques. I'm also very pleased that two students from our universities are here to offer their perspective on addressing zero hunger and related SDGs. From Earth University, we'll have Arnold Katende joining us, and he will actually receive a degree in agricultural sciences very soon in December 2021. And from UC Davis, we have Lina Pransky, who is the second-year master student in International Agriculture Development Program at UC Davis. She's also actually part of the research lab that focuses on equitable agriculture systems and technologies that are inclusive of vulnerable and marginalized population. So welcome to everybody, and Ermias, we'll start with you.
Okay, thank you, Joanna. As President Kondo mentioned, UC Davis and Earth University have begun working together to explore ways that we can collaboratively contribute towards SDG 2, building upon the strengths of each of our universities. SDG 2 aims to end hunger and all forms of malnutrition by 2030 through the promotion of sustainable agriculture, increased investment in rural infrastructure and agricultural research and development, and elimination of agricultural export subsidies and other trade restrictions and distortions in world agricultural markets. The United Nations estimates that there are around 690 million people who are hungry, and one in every 9 people goes to bed hungry each night, with millions at risk in impoverished nations of enduring widespread famine and starvation. The scale of this challenge requires actors across sectors to work together to achieve the goal of SDG 2, which is zero hunger. Universities are already contributing in meaningful ways through their research, service, and teaching. However, to meet the challenge of SDG 2 by 2030, we require focusing on several key areas of work, which I would like to highlight along with some examples of UC Davis efforts in these areas. First is the issue of food access. And by food access, I mean access by all people, particularly the poor and people in vulnerable situations, including infants, and access to safe, nutritious, and sufficient food all year round. One area of faculty research at UC Davis is focused on understanding how patterns of food availability align with nutritional needs, with resulting implications for food systems in populations who are economically or socially disadvantaged. The second issue related to food access is combating malnutrition. We see issues regarding stunting and wasting in children under 5 years of age in certain parts of the world. We need to work on nutritional needs of adolescent girls, pregnant and lactating women, and older persons. At UC Davis, faculty at the Institute for Global Nutrition and elsewhere on campus are conducting research on maternal and child nutrition in low-income communities, including immediate and long-term effects of nutrition and public health interventions during pregnancy and early childhood. Some research is also focused on micronutrient intervention programs for reducing under 5 children mortality and maternal mortality as well. The third area is to substantially increase the agricultural productivity and incomes of small-scale food producers. And this includes women, indigenous people, family farmers, pastoralists, and fishers. We need to work on secure and equal access to land, other productive resources and inputs, knowledge, financial services, markets, and opportunities for value addition and non-farm employment. UC Davis faculty research in Nepal, for example, is focusing on providing women with expertise in poultry production as a means of economic development to address gender inequality in the region. The UC Davis Horticulture Lab, which is supported by USAID, is conducting other work to support women's empowerment through horticulture in Honduras. The Poultry Genomics Innovation Lab is leading research to improve food security of small farmers in Africa. The Livestock Innovation Lab is working with UC Davis in research to improve dairy and small ruminant productivity, goats and sheep in Ethiopia and Burkina Faso. The fourth point I want to make is ensure sustainable food production systems and implement resilient agricultural practices that increase productivity and production, that help maintain ecosystems, that strengthen capacity for adaptation to climate change and disasters, and that progressively improve land and soil quality. And in this sphere, using agroecology as a tool to build up resilient and sustainable cropping systems around the world, UC Davis is seeking to better understand linkages between diversification, soil health, and resilience of agroecosystem systems to various biotic and abiotic stresses. We work with smallholder farmers in Uganda on farmer-led irrigation research and implementation that includes soil health and sustainable agricultural management and climate-smart agriculture. We also work on how gender guides and benefits from small-scale solutions for climate-smart agriculture. The fifth area of work is focused on maintaining the genetic diversity of seeds, cultivated plants, and farmed and domesticated animals and their related wild species, and promoting access to and fair and equitable sharing of benefits arising from the utilization of genetic resources and associated traditional knowledge as internationally agreed. The UC Davis Seed Biotechnology Center works on seed preservation and genetic diversity of seeds. And UC Davis is a part of the African Orphan Crops Consortium. This organization is working to advance plant breeding and agronomic training in Africa for improving crops and nutrition that might have been forgotten and have not gained any funding to be able to continue with breeding and improving the yield from these crops. Last but not least is the increased investment and market access, including through enhanced international cooperation in rural infrastructure, agricultural research and extension services, technology development to enhance agricultural productivity capacity and in low-income countries. At UC Davis, we have the Feed the Future Innovation Lab for Markets and Risk and Resilience that develops and tests financial market innovations that take the most promising agricultural tools for families in developing economies from the lab to the field. So to summarize, the key areas for SDG 2 that require urgent attention are food access, nutrition, productivity, sustainability or environment, genetic diversity, and economics or investment and market access. So UC Davis is already working on many of these issues, as I outlined earlier, often in collaboration with our partners, including Earth University. The partnerships are critically important to advance this work and to achieve SDG 2. We are looking forward to developing ways for our faculty and our students to work together in the months ahead to contribute to the decade of action. Thank you, Joanna.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ermias. And now I would like to pass it on to Jose Eduardo to talk about what's happening at Earth University.
Thank you so much, Joanna. First of all, I would like to thank everybody attending to the event today. We are very pleased to have you all, and well, I'm very grateful to participate today. So thank you all. Now, listening to the previous speakers, Arturo, Angel, and Ermias, I have a mix of feelings. One of them was I feel overwhelmed because obviously this is a huge task that we have to work on, which is eradicating hunger from this world. But the other feeling that I have is feeling hopeful on the future, specifically on what regards to what we're talking today, which is reducing or disappearing hunger from this world, as it is the SDG Zero Hunger by 2030. And there is no doubt this is a huge task. And the only way to gain results in this matter is working together and teaming up with people around the globe. And listening now to Dr. Cabreb Ermias about all the work that they're doing at UC Davis, and I'm sure there is people in different scenarios and different contexts doing the same hard work, and having the opportunity to team up and gain results is just amazing. Well, and zero hunger doesn't just refer to the physical access to food, which is obviously a key on what reducing zero hunger means, right? But also, it refers to having nutritious and healthy food that is produced in a sustainable way. So when working towards solving this SDG 2, we have to see it as a very comprehensive way, and look at from different angles, and that's what teaming up and working with people around the world can give us, right? As Dr. Cabreb mentioned, and it's amazing that the United Nations is reporting that 1 in 9 people are going to bed hungry tonight. It's just a lot of people, right? And many of us didn't even know it, right? And I'm sure most of us that are here today at this event won't go hungry to bed. Well, I might go hungry, but because I like food a lot, so but not because of not having food on the shelf, right? But this is a very sad reality, and as I mentioned before, and sorry to be so repetitive on this, but we have to team to work on teams towards disappearing hunger someday. Um, Earth University, for those that doesn't know, it's located in Costa Rica, and well, we are a very little and special and different place. We have a very small student body. We're only 400 students compared to other universities. This is very tiny. For instance, I'm an Earth alumni, and then I went to UF for my grad school, and well, University of Florida is 75,000 people. So it's a very tiny and special place. Though I'm gonna mention that even though we are not many as students and staff as other universities, we do have a global impact because we have people from pretty much around the world with different backgrounds and social status willing to learn about sustainable agriculture. That's what we teach at Earth. Today we have 2,547 graduates that come from 52 different countries. As you can see, we are tiny, but we have for sure people all around the world, and that's very rewarding for me to be part of this institution, and that we are willing to work with institutions like Georgia or like UC Davis. I'm going to mention some examples where Earth University is working and trying to put this grain of sand towards fixing the world hunger problem, right? Now, one of them is, for instance, in the internships. Our students in third year go to an internship. They go all around the world to work for 4 months in different scenarios. And I would like to mention one specific internship from one of our students from Malawi. Her name is Sakeyu Tawonga. She did her internship in her home country in a nonprofit organization called Campaign for Female Education, CAMFED, whose main purpose is to eradicate poverty in Africa by supporting women and empowering them. They have the head office in Blattire and have operations in 17 different districts. But what really amazed me was something that Tawonga said about her internship, and I'm gonna quote her. I choose this place, CAMFED, because I am passionate about girl-child education. I was also supported by CAMFED when I was in secondary school. So this is my way of giving back to my community. I hope to grow professionally and personally as a girl child, as I hope I will be able to inspire more girls in rural areas with my story. This is, I mean, I read this and I was like, wow, we have to work hard, but obviously, uh, more than that, we have to have people with such a passion for what they do, and that's key. In the case of Tawonga, knowing that she has that leadership and that strength in order to pursuing what ones might think is impossible, it's what we need because the task is huge. Another thing that we do at Earth, it's learning by doing. And since the first weeks of classes, our students have, to go to the field and do work out there, growing things, basically doing agriculture. And this is so important, because when we talk about food security, is not the only problem, but one of the main problems is the food production, right? Then we have distribution, market, and then many other things, right? But producing, it's hard. It's not an easy task, and we need to have professionals that are aware of it and understand the reality of the people, which are the farmers, producing our food. So at Earth, we try to push our students to go and learn from that reality experience, which is going out to the field, other than just having lectures, and which we have obviously, but doing things in the field and learning by doing. It's a key role that I think our students embrace in order to understand farmers and people that produce our food better, because that's a key. We need to know how they produce and why they do what they do. Another example is we have a department called Earth Futures at the Earth University, and it's a department that manages to promote projects, and one of them, it's a project that we have with a foundation that specifically I'm working on with my team, and we're trying to use precision agriculture to help small-scale farmers produce better in Costa Rica and Guatemala. We have around 350 farmers around Costa Rica and Guatemala with very small farms. I mean, anywhere from 1 hectare to 15 hectares, which is very small compared to these huge farms all over other places. But that was not the only problem, because when we started putting down this project, was like, all right, we need to produce better. Let's use technology and let's make farmers not scared about using technology. That's a key point. But then we also implemented the access to market, because we were producing more. But it's not just about producing more, but about turning that production into a better lifestyle for farmers, and most of it's by how they put their products out in the market. So we mixed those two, and I can say for sure that we're having some amazing results, and we are working with very small farmers in order to make them produce better and put their food available to people. And I'm sure there is a lot of other examples at our university that I didn't mention, or I'm not mentioning, where other colleagues and students are working on. And I'm aware of all the hard work that we are doing at our institution, and that people in general put day in, day out. So to close this, I just want to repeat it as I mentioned it before. We need hard work, teamwork, and also passion and hope on what we're doing. I would like to close with one quote that Will Rogers, which is an American actor, said, and it's very inspiring. And it says, "The farmers has to be optimistic. If not, they won't still farm." So I think we have to be optimistic about future, even though the challenges might seem very big. We as humanity have all the possibilities to overcome. So thank you, and coming back to you, Joanna.
Thank you, Armias, and thank you, Jose Eduardo, for sharing details actually how both of our universities are working to address SDG Zero Hunger, and really showing how much different kind of research, how much focus on the actual production of the food, on training of students has to be accomplished in order for all of us to make the progress. So now I would like to actually ask our students a few questions about their own experiences working on SDG 2 and what they hope to see in the future. So our students are Lina and Arnold. And I hope they managed to get, okay, Arnold is here. And Lina will be also joining us, hopefully. So Arnold, then let's start with you. Tell us maybe a little bit what kind of issues are you are looking during your studies, the issues that affect SDG 2 Zero Hunger.
All right, thank you, Joanna, and I'm very glad to be here. So I'm a student at Earth, as they earlier said, and there are a lot of issues that we've been looking at that affect zero hunger. So to start with, I think one of the biggest opportunities we have here at Earth University is having the international community, where we work with students from different places in the world, especially in Africa and Latin America. So that has been something very positive in us being able to identify and learn about the problems that are facing many of our communities. So some of the issues we've raised in our classes and in the courses we've taken are looking at how we can sustainably develop rural communities, how we can be able to work with small-scale farmers wherever we come from, and how we can be able to empower and kind of take on the education that we learned and take on the knowledge and skills we learn from here on how people can, for example, as Professor Jose Eduardo said, how people can use precision agriculture, how they can use the technology to make their farms more productive and to be able to utilize the minimum amount of water, the minimum amount of fertilizer, which all translates in them being able to produce enough food for them and their families. So that is one of the issues we look at. And then so the other issue we have been always study and learn about at Earth University is looking at food wastage and how we can do that and be agents of change in our communities, really, in regards with how we can educate the communities and how we can let people know about the percentage of food, especially in places with not enough food. So it's just like a privilege for most people that can have food. So some of the initiatives that are included in what we study look at how can we be able to support people in places that do not have food, or how can we better sort of create an awareness to people that have access to food, that there are a lot of other people that don't have access to this food. So that in some of the courses we see, for example, the sustainable tropical crops course, and then we look at the sustainable rural communities. All these focus on how we can develop our communities and how we can be able to look at some of those challenges, especially relating to food in the different communities.
Great, thank you. I'm not sure that Lina can join at the same time, so maybe if not, maybe I would just Arnold continue with you, and then when I ask you a couple questions, then we can move to Lina, and then she can join us. So let me continue then. I know that actually both of our universities have the student farming on our campus. And I know that you have been involved, and I was wondering if you can tell us more about those efforts on your campus, and then we'll hear more from UC Davis side.
All right. Yeah, sure. So Earth, as Dr. Arturo said, Earth has a lot of experience in educating students from different countries, especially from developing countries. So as part of the program in our final year, or in our fourth, well, in first and second year, we still have the work experience where we get to work at the different academic farms. So we are looking at the organic farm, the urban farm, the forest farm, and all and the animal farm. So all these experiences make you decide what farm you want to work to in the end, or what farm do you want to be a student leader. So obviously this is very voluntary and depends on someone's interest. So I think something really positive about the curriculum and education here is that you have that opportunity to actually choose from all the opportunities and the kind of farm there is. So some of the students in fourth year work on, like, for example, we have the urban farms, which look at some of the addressing the challenges of the growing urban population and how we can sustainably grow food in urban centers. And then the other farms that look at precision agriculture. So that's looking at how can we conserve the maximum amount of water and nutrients. Then in my case, so I'm working at the Earth University Aquaculture Experimental Station. So we are looking at producing and producing fish sustainably, and looking at some of uh, the alternatives that fish production and aquaculture proposes in terms of food security. Obviously, considering the problems we are having with the contaminations in the oceans, the overfishing that's happening in the oceans, and the very unsustainable production of fish feeds. So part of the research we do on the area that are working with aquaculture is looking at how can we be able to produce um, the fish feed that have the least environmental impact, and how can we able to recycle and reuse the water we have in our fish production systems, because the fish production has very high potential in being an alternative to what people have beef, and in providing that balanced diet, especially in the adding of the protein and the protein in the diet of people. So that has been a very good experience, I would say, because you learn a lot about the reality. I think that's something that I'm really grateful for, because you learn about the reality so that by the time you graduate, so when I graduate in December, I'll have a better picture of how the market is, and how I can be able to apply everything I've learned. So that I think that's really crucial, because in the end, even if I learned so much, but I cannot be able to explain that knowledge or pass it to other people, producers or small scale farmers that are working in fisheries or any other kind of farms, I don't think you'll be successful. So I'm really grateful for those student-led farms initiatives at Earth.
Great, thank you. I think the point of being actually engaged in the real kind of situation and learning as you work through is extremely important, because how you can really learn only in the classroom without actually having an experiences. So I'm gonna now switch to Lena. Lena cannot do the video, but I understand that she can hear us. So, Lena, if you can hear us, let me go back to the first question. And if you can talk about the kind of issues that you are engaged in as you said, for your master degree, that actually do affecting the SDG Zero Hunger. You cannot hear us. Well, if you cannot hear us, Lena. Okay. Arnold, if I signal that Lena can hear us, I'll go back to Lena. But then, Arnold, I'm going back to you. And I was wondering, in your view as a student who is very active in the university and what types of collaboration would you like to see taking place between the universities who are pursuing to advance the D2?
Thank you. So I think collaborations, as you mentioned, is something very important, and I think universities and students are like the pioneers to being able to promote the future of farming and and sustainable farming practices. So to me, in my opinion, I think the biggest way, I think the first way to collaborate and to bring a meaningful impact, universities should work on like developing education programs. So education programs first that are focused on making the students have access to the information and knowledge they need to know, especially about the current situation in different places, in different communities, and then passing that on to people who are actually working in food production. So that's like maybe small scale farmers, that's like people who are working on adding value to agricultural produces, and people who are working on research in developing sustainable food practices and systems. So I think one of the biggest contributions that universities can do through that cooperation is being able to design and work on education programs that see support of both those, but that see the support of the ideas, especially of people who are passionate about making sure that there is an end to hunger. So to me, I think that would be like the biggest contribution.
Right. Emerged on our screen. Nina, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. So let me introduce Lina Prensky from UC Davis. So Lina, we have a few more minutes, and I was wondering if you could talk a bit about the kind of work that you do during your master degree work during the studies that actually affect SDG Zero Hunger.
Yeah, definitely. So I am a graduate student in the International Agricultural Development Program, and it's one of many programs at UC Davis that focuses on addressing food insecurity through a multidisciplinary lens. And we have a very global perspective, and lots of our students will specialize in different tracks like soil science or community development. And through that, I'm also part of a lab with Dr. Amanda Crump, and we focus on vulnerable and marginalized communities and making sure that agricultural technologies and food systems are inclusive and equitable for those folks, and also that they're included in the design of technology and the design of programming, which I think is so important. I'm working through that lab on a project with primarily Bolivian migrants surrounding in the peri-urban area surrounding Buenos Aires in Argentina. And it's a partnership with a local university and the Federal Extension Agency to try to see how we can convert that peri-urban space into a green belt of agricultural sustainability and food sovereignty. And that's one of the many, many different tracks that one could take with the ID program and with agricultural work in general at UC Davis. And I feel very, very lucky that I'm able to design a research project in collaboration with local organizations and local agencies who really know what's going on the ground. So I'm not designing it from scratch with outsider information.
So that brought us back to action and engagement. And I know that you also are involved in a student farming efforts on our campus. What kind of involvement it is? And you can describe and share with us a bit about that kind of work that you're doing right now.
Yeah, definitely. There's tons of hands-on experiences to get involved with agriculture at UC Davis. And I would say that the student farm is a great area for folks who have an agricultural background to meet with other students who might not have an agricultural background, like me. And it's a 23-acre student farm. Part of the student farm focuses on organic, sustainable production for selling in a market. Part of it focuses on organic plant breeding. Some of it focuses, we have this eco garden, which is really cool. It's a half-acre that focuses on ecological production and really highlights ways of growing native crops and also culturally specific crops, so students can really identify with what's being grown on campus. And then I'm part of the Fresh Focus program, which is, we saw this beautiful produce being grown, and some of it isn't exactly market quality, or there's a huge surplus of produce. And we decided, students a few years ago decided to create a program that would funnel that food into food access programs throughout the Davis community, because throughout the UC system, around 40% of students are food insecure, which is really jarring, and micronutrient deficiencies aren't easily seen. And it's a wonderful experience to understand that these global food issues are right here at home too, and finding a way of engaging with that.
Thought about how we can collaborate as a student, as the future leader, what kind of collaborations universities should pursue to advance the SDG 2?
Yeah, I would love to see as many exchanges as we can have. I mean, the COVID times that we're in are just horrible. And one thing that we can learn from it is that, we can have more accessible collaborations on virtual platforms. I mean, nothing's really a substitution for in-person work, but it's been really amazing to see through this pandemic about how many people can join our classroom virtually that otherwise we wouldn't be able to afford to have in the classroom, or they wouldn't be able to afford to come. And I think that having more virtual exchange and in-person exchange would be amazing. I mean, working on my research project where I get to co-create research questions with universities that have local knowledge and context has been invaluable. And I know there's a lot of mistakes I would have been making otherwise, because everyone has assumptions. So it's great to really challenge your own perspectives and realities by having outside perspectives. And I think that a lot more university exchange is what we need. And I think there's actually a session tomorrow morning at 8 about inter-university collaboration. Yeah, so I highly recommend.
And it's actually a session about very much involving student forums. So I invite all of you to join us to continue this conversation. Now I want to thank both of you, Lina and Arnold, for sharing your thoughts and your work and your hopes for the future. I'm going to turn now to Arturo Kondo, who will help us with the Q&A. We have a few minutes for questions.
Thank you so much, Joanna, and thank you so much to Arnold, Lina, and of course also Eduardo and Hermias. As Betsy put it in the comment section, many of our students are already leading, and indeed they are. We have a few minutes that we can use, that we would like to use for comments or questions for some of our panelists. So please feel free to make these questions or ask these questions or comments on the comment section. One thing that I love to hear from both Arnold and Lina is, what would you like us, university administrators, leaders, what would you like us to do different, or what can we do more of to empower the student work you're doing? How can we step it up? How can we do more?
Thank you. I think that's a good question. With regards to what you can do, I think, for example, speaking from math experience, I think you've already done a lot for us and being able to give us the platforms to be able to participate in events like this. So maybe one of the things I think can be very, can have a better impact as well is us having more opportunities like this, opening up, like obviously university collaborations, for example, with UC Davis, that we're working on different research projects. So I think opening up that more can really help a lot. And I think at Earth, that something else we've done so well is the opportunity to do international internships. I think that has been, at least for me, it's been like a high opening experience, because I got to do my internship at the University of Nebraska in US, and then it just sort of opens you to a different perspective of things happening in another place. And yeah, I just think that is something that has so much impact. So things like those international internships, and then the international community, especially at Earth, I think maybe bringing more students from other countries like all over the world, I think that also like can expand the horizon and the perspective. Because, for example, currently we are working with especially we have students at Earth who are like maybe from Latin America and Africa, but if you have students maybe from other, like maybe Asia or different parts of Europe, I think that can also increase the perspective and sort of give us the chance to learn more. That's what I believe.
Thank you, Arnold. Lena, can you chime in?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with what Arnold was saying. I mean, as he was talking throughout this session, all I want to do is have a class with him and learn more from him. And if there's more experiences where students could do that, I think that would be incredible, especially with the student farm. I mean, there's kind of a patchwork of student farm work that goes on throughout the UC system and throughout the US. And it would be so amazing to see how other universities are addressing student farm issues and getting that hands-on knowledge for folks to share their experiences and also to gain new experiences. And it would be great, I mean, I'll always plug for additional funding for student-initiated programs. I really think that, I mean, the student farm at UC Davis was started by students. The Fresh Focus program was started by students. And so I think, continuing that would be great. But yeah, Arnold, hopefully I'll meet you one day.
We should make that happen for sure. I'm again following on the comments. I think we all agree how important and central this is. And to your point, Lena, that those practical questions, getting the funding, putting together the programs, that's the point of this initiative, this Decade of Action initiative. We started University of California, Davis and Earth together, just the two of us, precisely to put together some proposal. And now we are adding, as Joanna mentioned, Newcastle University already joined the group, and others are expressing interest. And we hope that some of the people connected to this session and in general to the conference over today and tomorrow will decide to join, and because we need so many more hands, so many more brains, so many more hearts, and I celebrate that. So I'll do my part to try to get not just the two of you but our students closer and closer together. Time is and thank you, Xiang Yu, for your comment on Bridgewater State University. Very interesting. So we're coming to the close of this first panel. Already very interesting, and I feel the excitement in some of the comments I've been reading. We would like to share a short video. It's a 3-minute video from our students, from a group of our students at Earth University. If we can play the video now.
In different parts of Africa, the children, youths, economically active, and the farmers each year come together to celebrate sustainable agriculture. We celebrate with joy as soon as we see it is season for farming, especially towards the end of the year. We celebrate the hard work towards the preparation of the land and cultivation. And lastly, we celebrate the harvest, for we have come out victorious in agriculture. The harvest is a symbol that we have conquered the SDG of Zero Hunger, no poverty, production, and consumption. And we celebrate this in different types of cultural dances, and this is how it is done.
Yesu wamaenda ndindidi. Ekayo oyenda ndi Yesu wamaenda ndindidi. Yesu tunena banu anzanga ndi mabeto. Anamububuda Satana anamufotokoza. Yesu tukamba pano anzanga chitekete. Anamububuda Satana anamufotokoza. Swaga, oyenda ndi Yesu wamaenda ndi swaga. Yekayo oyenda ndi Yesu wamaenda ndi swaga. Oyenda ndi Yesu timaenda ndi swaga. Yekayo oyenda ndi Yesu wamaenda ndi swaga. Yesu tunena bano anzanga ndi mapeto. Anamububuda Satana anamufotokoza.
Thank you for that. Those are some of our students from Africa. As Jose Eduardo mentioned, we're focused on Latin America and Africa, and it's a wonderful community that we would love to share with many of you or all of you one day. So we're right on the hour. I want to thank all the panelists, of course, our wonderful faculty, Hermias and Jose Eduardo, our wonderful students, Arnold and Lina, and thank you so much, Joanna, for being a co-conspirator in all this effort. It's a pleasure of a journey with you. So thank you everyone for joining. It's been a great start of the program. As you could see, thank you for the comments. Keep coming. Right now, we're moving into concurrent sessions, so we're right on the time to do that. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the program today and tomorrow.